Well, hello, Yellow Army. It's been quite some time since we've met in these circumstances, isn't it? But with us being a few weeks into the close season now, we thought it'd be an ideal opportunity to have a catch up and see how things are going behind the scenes. And with all that in mind, who else better to ask those questions to than United manager Gary Johnson? Good morning, Gaffer. How you doing?
Morning. I'm doing fine, thank you. Nicely rested. Just come back off a nice little holiday. Fortunately, the flights were going and all the staff were there, so we were very lucky last week. Not so lucky maybe for the people this week, but anyway, you always draw a crowd, mate. I mean, it's unbelievable the crowd's got behind you. You've got the Yellow Army in your favour this time, so I better be careful of what I'm saying.
Well, we've had a fantastic response from the launch of season tickets since they went online a few weeks ago. So yes, it really does feel like the Yellow Army are right behind us and right behind me as it is today. But of course, exactly. You've had now almost 2 seasons back to back. There was such a small pre-season, and that so I think if anyone was due a break, Gaffer, you would due it.
Yeah, that's what my wife said anyway. She was desperate for us to go away, as I was, to be fair. But I still would have preferred being in the playoffs. But I had a holiday a little bit later. But anyway, it wasn't to be. And I watched the playoffs abroad and did a lot of work abroad. We were still in contact with my brother Pete, our chief scout, obviously Downsy, and obviously George Edwards. We was always in discussions, sort of, if not every day, every other day. And when my wife dropped off on her sunbed, dropped to sleep for 5 minutes, then I was making all my calls and putting me teams, writing me teams in the sand. So a lot of work was going on, and I'm really pleased with the work that's gone on. So we haven't wasted the 10 days that I was away. So far from it.
It's funny that, Gaffer, because I was going to ask you how you tackle your holidays, because there's some managers that obviously feel they need a complete break and they don't want to watch any football or anything like that, but that doesn't sound like you at all, actually.
Yeah. No, well, I'm not one to lie there and read a book or, fall asleep or anything like that. You sort of still got the football in your head, and then you're still getting calls from people that you've offered contracts to that might say, I'm sorry, but, thanks for offering it, but I'm not going to take it up. And then there's others that want to take it up, and then you have to deal with their representatives. So it's a pretty full on job, whether it's the summer or the winter, autumn or spring.
Yeah, no, that's probably the whole conversation the most the Yellow Army are going to be talking about. That's the big thing that's happened since we last spoke, really, at the end of the Southend game, the release list. Now, to summarise, 3 players under contract for next year already. 8 were released. 13 were offered new deals. Obviously, the Yellow Army are very eager to hear about how those negotiations have been going. Are you able to give us any update on those that were offered new contracts at all?
Yeah, I can do, Dom. We obviously people know the release list. The ones that didn't get offered contracts. We felt you need a freshness sometimes, especially if the ones that are out of contract haven't played as much as we would have liked to have done, and they themselves would have liked to have done. So, obviously there has to be a turnaround. You have to reinvent your group every now and again. But of course, there were some lads that we offered contracts to. To be fair, we offered Armani, Connor, and Joe Lewis. The club offered them fantastic contracts, to be fair, and all 3 turned the contracts down. Obviously, Armani and Connor being over 24, their representatives with them obviously did decide that they wouldn't sign the contracts at that time. And we offered it again to those 2 at the end of the season, but they just wanted to see what was out there for them. And you sort of can't blame young footballers that have done well. It's always sad when you lose some good players. But again, we have to reinvent ourselves, and it's quite exciting to get new players in. So those 2, I suspect, if they find their clubs that they're looking for, then they're gone. Joe Lewis, of course, is on compensation because he's under 24. Joe, all three of them have been great the whole season. So, we can't sort of complain really about the service that they gave us. And Joe, the same. He got offered a contract, turned it down. Sometimes representatives of the players decide that it's better to be out of contract. I don't think it is, but anyway, that's the way the world is. And we're waiting to see what turns up with Joe. A club would have to speak to us first to negotiate a fee if he wanted to go. But if he doesn't want to go, then no problem. He's got a contract with us, of course. But if he wanted to go, then you negotiate. And if that negotiation stalemates or stalls because you can't agree, then it ends up going to a tribunal. So that's the situation there. I'm pleased to say that, right, let's get them all correct. The players that have agreed their contracts are Ali Omar, who I think had a fantastic end to the season. I'm so pleased we get another year to help him become a better player. Dean Moxey, Lapsley, Tom Lapsley, Asa Hall. Now we've got to get them all in. Dan Martin. Who else we I didn't have a list there.
How about the young lads? How are things looking with Olaf and Alex?
Yeah, well, Olaf and Alex, they've still got time. We want to, with those lads, if they don't quite make the first team, then it's pretty comfortable for us to loan them out. There's lots of clubs that want both of them. They both did very well on loan. We still think that they need a little bit more to become regulars in the first team. They get an opportunity in pre-season, of course they will. But it's comfortable for them and us for them to train with us full time and go and get their games on a Saturday or Saturday and a Tuesday on loan. Ben Winter, we've got Ben and Danny Wright. They both they didn't turn the contracts down. What those two did was that they spoke to their families. Now, Ben and his young family have been away from their London home for a long time now. And I think the family decided to go back to where both sets of families, the wife and Ben. So we thank him for his service, but he won't be signing for us. Then we have the same situation with Danny Wright. Danny Wright's been travelling quite a long way each time, and he's got a young family. He's got a wife that's got a business, so there's childcare and all that sort of stuff. So for family reasons, and both of them fought long and hard. We gave them the time to think about it, but we understand because they've both been great servants to the club. Sean Mcdonald, he was he's similar. It's not so much a family thing with Sean, but he set his hopes on playing in the EFL. That's what he is desperate to do. So he won't be with us. He's seeking pastures new, and I hope they all get what they're looking for. So that's what we've done with that.
So with all that in mind, obviously there's still going to be a core of familiar faces at Plainmoor. There'll also be plenty of room for new faces. And like you touched upon a minute ago, that's not always a bad thing about freshening things up, is it? Because there is an expression in football, I don't know if it's one of yours or somebody else's, that if you can only move forward because otherwise you're going backwards.
Exactly. And that's always important. It's important to me. You as a manager sometimes have to reinvent yourself. Your coaches have to reinvent themselves every year. You've got to give them sort of different sayings sometimes, but with the same theme, because they don't want to keep hearing the same jokes or the same instructions all the time. But we've got a real good core of players that know our game. That's good, and we know we need players in probably one in every sort of position, i.e. one goalkeeper. We need one defender. We need one more midfield player. We need another striker or two. So we're it's quite exciting when you're doing that. Now, it's not always easy to bring in. I've mentioned him before, so I'm not reinventing myself yet. Harry Kane. We're not going to get him in, and there's often, if a player is well known to everybody, that makes it pretty difficult for us to compete unless he lives in Newton Abbot or Torquay or Paynton. So that's the situation there. But we're excited by what we're going to be bringing in, because the one thing we want to do is entertain people, and I don't think anyone can complain about some of the players, and most of the players that we've brought in, albeit on professional forms or on loan, have been good entertainers. We've had our fun this year, and unfortunately we was just short. But we've got to keep striving to find those entertainers that can play football conducive to what our supporters want, and they want to be entertained, and that's our job to do that.
Now, those slightly different circumstances, Gaffer, do you see any similarities between the scenario that we're in now in pre-season and one of your previous pre-seasons at Cheltenham Town? Because there was plenty of comings and goings on that occasion, and it certainly paid off on, handsomely, because you strode your way to the title on that occasion. Any similarities at all?
Yeah, there's always similarities in that, because you always lose players, because when people say, well, why don't you sign them all on 2-year deals and then sign them again after a year, so they're always on a deal? But again, representatives of players don't like them to do that, because that other clubs can take them cheaper if they're out of contract at the end of the season, and it's only if they're under 24 do you retain compensation rights. So that's a sort of a juggling act, but you don't turn somebody away because he only wants to sign a year, especially if you're the one that's approached them. And as long as you've got your core of 6 or 7 players that you trust and they trust you, then you've got the same way that we lose players, i.e. to other teams, all our players, because there's still a little stigma about being non-league. Everybody seems to want to play in the league. And it always looks a bit rosy from just before you go to these clubs. But if you look at some of the lads that had left, not many of them played too many games. They had the odd games here and there. And so sometimes it's not always fun in the EFL sitting on the bench or not in the squad. Sometimes that new squad that you bring in, like the squad we're bringing in, are very excited about joining us. And that's a good feeling. And that's, if they join us, it means they've done their own work. They've looked at what I do, what the team does, the team that's left, and they want to join us. So you start with a very positive group, and that's always good news.
Now, in previous interviews, you've already mentioned about marquee signings. Can you just clarify what a marquee player is for a club like Torquay United, and how things are progressing on those fronts with those kind of players you're in chats with?
It's a good question. To bring in a marquee player that, when I said it, I know people sort of like didn't misread it. They heard the word marquee. Very difficult to bring in that player that's already known with a family, and somebody that's creating a lot of interest because he's a marquee player everywhere else. So what we have to do is we bring in a player that we believe is going to become that marquee player as soon as he starts playing for us, i.e., there's lots of players that we brought in, as I said earlier, on loan and under contract that have entertained us. And there's many more players that turned into marquee players than turned into players that we needed to move on pretty quick. So we hope that marquee tag is somebody that come into Torquay and everybody likes, everybody wants to, come to games to watch that particular player play. And I think people will get a good idea of what I mean by a marquee player in pre-season, ready for the start of the season, because we're bringing in some talented people, and I'm really pleased with them. They will become marquee players to our Torquay fans, and I promise you that.
Now, for obvious reasons, we're never going to announce any signings, any discussions we're having with new potential signings until everything is rubber stamped, if you like. And are you able to give us any sort of timescale to where you think that we might start hearing about any new incomings to the squad?
Yeah, well, it's always late because you can't sign anyone on contract until the 1st of July. So until those contracts are signed, you've not really got a hold on anybody. So, Tottenham Hotspurs comes calling, if you like, then, they could agree with you, but then walk out the next day sort of thing. So it only can become official on the 1st of July. I'll try and get people to commit themselves by being with me at pre-season, shaking hands, before, we go back on the 30th of June anyway. But if I can do anything earlier, then I will do. But, people just have to enjoy the summer and be patient and understand that you can't, there's lots of names being thrown around. I've seen some of them I never heard of, let alone been talking to them. So, just let us get on with it. And at the right time, like we've done now with the retained list and the ones that have signed their contracts, new contracts, and ones that haven't signed their new contracts, we sort of let everybody know when we know. But we don't speculate. We have to do it properly and wait for the right time. And that's what we do as a club.
Now, one other source of new recruits is via the club's youth team, of course. Chris Todd's under-18s obviously had a marvellous season as he secured a domestic treble. Are you able to provide us any update on the news as to whether we can expect to see any of them at all making a step up next season?
Yes, I'm sure there'll be a couple that step up. At the moment, we're still working out the scheme that they'll be coming in on, because that's important, because some of them want to carry on with their studies, which is good. And that's important. It's important to us. It'll be good to get intelligent footballers. And that's what you need. And anyway, if it doesn't work out for them, it means they've got some form of education to fall back on. So we're just juggling with what scheme it will be, whether it will be full-time professional anyway, but then with education for one or two times on a couple of afternoons when they're not training. So, but they have done very well. We're proud of them all. He's done great, Toddy, with that group. They train with us a lot, so we saw them many times in training. I watched all the videos of their games. Unfortunately, we can't take everybody, so we have to make a decision. That decision has been made, but until everybody knows exactly what we're doing, we won't be able to announce it just yet.
Now, goalkeeper Matt Wonnacott is sadly one of those that won't be at Torquay next season. He turned down the deal to join Wigan, but I think it's safe to say that the club did absolutely everything possible to keep him at Plainmoor, didn't they?
Yeah, we did. Wigan was interested in him a little while ago. We met with his parents and him, and there was an opportunity for him to go to Wigan on trial. Now, unfortunately, when you are in the National League, you've got no hold on anybody until you sign them as a 17-year-old. And Matt Wonnacott was 16, so we said, look, unfortunately, we don't want you to go to Wigan. We've offered you a 2-year deal, which we had done as a professional, and that would have been signed when he was 17, which I think has maybe just happened. But and then suddenly Wigan came back. He trained with us regular. He was on the bench a few times. We took him out onto the pitch to do the warm-up with the lads shooting, and so it was a great experience for him. But as a family, they decided that they would go to the Championship as it is now, because they went up. It was First Division then, and it's unfortunate. I think if I was given advice, which I tried to, then if you're a goalkeeper at 17, then you need to go to a club where you've got a chance of getting in the team pretty early. If you go First Division Championship, then it might be some time before you actually get that feeling of first team football. So, but anyway, we wish him well. It was a shame, but there's nothing that we did. Again, the club did everything it possibly could. Everything was arranged, and then ring on the bell, Wigan call in, and the family decided to go there. But we move on.
Because whether we're talking about Matt or whether we're talking about any players making a step up here at Torquay United, it's still very much a learning curve, isn't it? Because there's a big jump between South West Counties youth football and the National League, isn't there?
It's a massive jump, and the boys know that, the staff know that, and we know that. But you mustn't stop. You can't stop giving these lads opportunities, because they've got to start somewhere. And whether they stay with us or they move on, they become better professionals, better experience, where they've had 2 years training with the first team, being part of the education of that team, the rules and regulations of that.
Now, we've also had the pre-season friendlies announced. It's great to see that there's a mixture of away games against local clubs, but also some home friendlies against EFL opposition, because during the last 2 seasons, of course, Gaffer, that's been so difficult to arrange, with the National League kicking off later than the Football League.
Yeah, well, it's we always leave, well, not always, but we've left this year, the last week free for something that might come up. We might be negotiating with a club where we say, we can only pay you this, but we'll play you in a pre-season friendly the Saturday before the league starts. And that, might be a bonus for that particular club. We always, if we've got interest, like with an under-23, couple of under-23s, a big club, if you like, then sometimes we'll invite them in. We'll always get a game in that last week. But the reason why we play the local teams is because we get a bigger gate if we play Exeter than if we play Chelsea, maybe, because Chelsea would not send down their first team. They'd send down their young lads that most people wouldn't know. We're happy to play them because you can have a look at them. But the reason why we play Exeter, Newport now, which is a good one, and Plymouth, is because we want to see where we are as far as our group's concerned, how our training's go. It's more beneficial to play those teams that we're playing, so that we can have a look at their young lads that might not be getting in their first team early, like we did with Adam Randall, and also Sparksy from Exeter. So we've had some decent communication and players from those 2 teams, because obviously they're local and they're happy for them to come to us, because they can watch them every week if they need to. But it's mainly because we want to see where we are in have we got the team to compete with a couple of second division teams, and well, actually it's now 2 first division teams and 1 second division team, and they nearly made it as well. But so that's where we are, and that's why we do that. And hopefully the public will come and see the new lads, and it gives us you don't want to play somebody that you're going to win 10-0, but you also don't want to play somebody that you might lose 10-0. But that's where it is, and it's very difficult to get the big boys down to us anyway, because the travelling, they don't particularly want to travel as far as us, but also at the important times they're all away on tours and in competitions abroad. So I'll have a little chat with Lee. I'm playing golf with him this afternoon, see if I can nick a couple of these players, and yeah, we'll see how that goes. But he's obviously got his job up at Hibernian now, but it's only 2 hours flight from here to Edinburgh, so who knows.
Yeah, it's fantastic to see Lee back in football. That maybe you could convince him to do a pre-season tour of South Devon next season.
Yeah, that might be good. I think they're going to Portugal, although there's not a lot of differences there between the English Riviera and the Portuguese Riviera. But yeah, I'll mention it to him because it will save the club a few bob, and also it will save them doing these flights where you got to queue up for like 10 hours.
Well, Gaffer, thank you for joining us today. It's been fantastic speaking to you, as it always is. And I know that we'll probably be speaking again as the pre-season preparations intensify over the coming weeks.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for the giving us a call. It's a good time to do it. I think people needed to know the information that we've given them, which is great. And we look forward to seeing them very, very soon. And sorry for the interruptions. I'm sorry you got to do a bit of editing, but that's how busy it is at the moment. So I'll turn my phone off when I'm on the golf course.
Brilliant. Cheers, Gaffer, and thank you for joining us, Yellow Army. Thank you for everybody that's renewed their season tickets so far. We look forward to seeing as many of you as possible back again here at Plainwell again in August. But for now, goodbye.
Absolutely. See ya.